All right, welcome back to the Big Texas Podcast presented by Texas Young Republicans. I'm your host, Jordan Overturf, and if you thought I was done talking about the special election runoff in HD 28 and HD 148, then you must not know that today is Election Day. That's right, the special election runoff in House District 28 and House District 148 is finally here. Polls close at 7 p.m. If you're listening to this afterward, well, you missed your chance and your opportunity. But if you are listening to this now live before the polls close, you need to make sure and get out and vote. This is House District 28 in Fort Bend County. Gary Gates is running to hold on to that seat, maintain a Republican control in HD 28, and defeat the Democrats who are coming in trying to buy the seat with endorsements from presidential candidates, failed still aspiring candidates who are coming down and block walking for this little old House race. So again, if you live in Fort Bend County in House District 28, today is your day to go and vote in that special election runoff. Also over in HD 148, Louis LaRota, friend of the podcast, Houston Young Republican, is running to take control of that seat and bring new leadership, new fresh young Republican leadership to HD 148. So if you live in that district in Houston, get out and vote. It's the last time I'm going to say it because, like I said, today's election day for HD 28 and HD 148. Okay, that's the last time. My guest today is a candidate in Texas 32, the seat that was once held by Congressman Pete Sessions and now is in the hands of Democrat Colin Allred. Yesterday we had Genevieve Collins on the podcast, and today we welcome Floyd McLendon, retired U.S. Navy SEAL. I really enjoyed talking to Floyd about his experience in the military, what he learned on the Hill, working with various congressional representatives, talking about what his approach would be for the veterans healthcare system, talking about how the VA is a perfect example of why Medicare for all is a dangerous proposition. I really did have a good time talking to Floyd, and I think you're going to enjoy listening to him. So I'm going to get out of the way. Ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, Mr. Floyd McLendon. Away from the campaign trail to sit down with us. How long were you serving your country?
Floyd McLendon, serving I'm trying to continue to serve my country for Congress District 32 of Texas against Colin Allred. I served for over 25 years.
Wow. In
the United States Navy. I'm a retired U.S. Navy SEAL. And my this is my continuation to serve, along with a couple other things that motivated me along the way. I've been preparing for this since 2013.
Okay, well, and what kind of spurred you at that point?
2013, I was doing a speaking engagement, and after the speaking engagement, I had a former congressman walk up to me and ask me if I ever thought about politics, and I laughed at him. I was like, no way. There's no way I'm going to run. He's like, well, I think you may have what it takes. Here's my card. If you think about it and it's something you want to do, let me know. So a couple of years later, I came back I was over at Guam, serving over in Southeast Asia for 2 years.
Okay.
And I got back and I knew I was going to retire. So I called him up and I said, hey, what's this all about? He started to mentor me. And then I went through a program in 2016 called the Honor Foundation. I don't know if you ever heard of it.
Yep.
Yeah. Career Readiness Transition Program.
Yeah.
It was phenomenal for me. And I told them this was my next calling. They laughed at me because my brothers, they knew. They knew who they knew me, and they said, "Bro, there's no way that this is you." But after we did the assessments, and we sat down and we talked, it really resonated. They said, "Yes, this is something that you're passionate about and something you can do after your career." So from there, I got connected with Hill Vets. Okay. So Hill Vets is another veteran program that puts you on Capitol Hill.
Yep.
And this is where it all came together. I worked for a Republican congressman in North Carolina. His name was Robert Pittenger, North Carolina 9th District. I was under his chief of staff, Clark Fonda. They started to mentor me and they opened up the doors. So I was the military legislative fellow. So I handled military legislation, I also helped with them writing China legislation. I took meetings. I went to the committee meetings, all these things to learn the process of how Congress really works. Mm-hmm. And I was very disappointed in the lack of leadership that our representatives had. I had a very high regard for our representatives. And what I saw, that it didn't match.
Yeah.
And I knew that I had more than some in order to represent, our country, the American people. So that really spurred me to continue to go down this path. Another one was there's 21% of veterans in Congress right now.
Okay.
If you look back in the 1970s, it's about 70%. So what you lose is you lose a perspective from individuals who voluntarily served the American people in their country. They've seen the world. They've seen how great America really is, based off of the third world countries and the atrocities that they go through every day. And that plays a big part in passing legislation, writing legislation. Yeah. So I felt that we needed more representatives from a military background to be there to help with improving our legislation, in our country. And so those are the main three things. It's my continuation to serve. It is, lack of leadership that's in Congress, and it's the lack of military veteran representation.
Now, one of the big criticisms of Colin Allred is, he had this opportunity to come in, he flipped a district and had a chance to change the narrative about the representation for CD32. And yet in his first year in office, he was nowhere to be found, right? Democrats are pretty easy to find on the Hill right now, right? You just whisper impeachment and they show up. So why do you think it is, or let's not even get into that. What is it about your style that will be completely counter to what CD32 has been experiencing this last year?
My campaign, we're close to hitting 10,000 doors.
Okay.
And when the people open up the door and I ask them, what is the most pressing thing on their mind when it comes to Congress and our district? And they say it's the divisiveness that they see in Congress. And it's also the silent voice or ear on the other end when it comes to the current representative, right? So for me, this is about, one, building a relationship with the people, building faith and trust back to where they feel very comfortable with a representative to go up to Washington, D.C. and fight for them. That requires communication. Now, not only is Colin Allred not talking to the people, he's not talking to the leaders in the community. He's not talking to the industries in the district, in the community, or in Washington, D.C. Now, how do I know this? Because when I go to Washington, D.C., I meet with the industries in the district, and this is what they tell me. Colin Allred is not taking any of our meetings. The leaders in the cities are saying, I can't get a meeting with him. Radio shows, he's on the Transportation and Infrastructure Committee up in Congress. Mm-hmm. There's a radio show specifically to talk about transportation and infrastructure. I went on that show and talked about transportation and infrastructure. And what they tell me is the current congressman won't even take their call to come onto the show to talk about the issues where he is a committee member.
We'll talk about an absence of leadership.
Exactly. So in the absence of leadership, one will lead. Mm-hmm. So here it is. District 32 needs a leader. They need someone who will communicate with them, who will talk to them and listen to them. Now, it doesn't just stop there. The current congressman before them is, what I'm being told, did not have a respectful relationship with the people. He didn't listen to them. He called them names. He didn't respect their viewpoint. So for over 10 years, District 32 has not had a U.S. House of Representative that they can depend on. And some of them don't even know what it looks like when I come to them and I start to communicate with them. It is absolutely mind-blowing to them that I want to hear what's on their mind. So this is the what I'm hearing from the people, from the leaders, from the industries, what they haven't had in 12 years. Now, my military background, 25 years of service, 15 years as a Navy SEAL, that background proves that I have the ability to communicate. I have the ability to work with diverse groups, teamwork, right? I am very open-minded. I'm very outside the box, and I don't really care what your color is, where you came from, your economic status. If you're bringing something to the table to improve, passing legislation to improve our country, the American people, let's do it. So that's what I'm bringing to the table, what they have not had, but also with my experience in working overseas with our foreign allies, and mission first. That's it. Mission first. All the noise is to the side. It's mission first.
I'm glad you brought that up, because that's the one thing that I have noticed as I talk to veterans who are out there, they're running in these races, is mission critical as the focus for their campaign, right? And it seems like right now, it's not just this district, but many people across the country feel like their leadership in DC is AWOL, right? Is that an inaccurate statement from your experience?
That's an accurate statement, but let's go a little bit deeper about why.
Okay.
Out of the 435 seats, only 50 are competitive. That means 385 seats, most representatives know, regardless of what they do, they're going to get elected. The power is in the people. The power is in their vote. But we have to do the work.
Yep.
As a representative, I have to do my work in order to educate you, in order to be a good representation for you up in Congress. But you have to do your work to do your education and see what representative is best for you. Now, the 50 seats that are competitive, it's easy to build a relationship with that representative, because that representative understands that if I don't, I'm out the door.
Yeah.
But the 385, they do whatever they want, and some of the people sit back and they don't do their work. They don't get out. They don't learn who that representative really is, right? And they continue to vote for this person over and over again because they have a title of Republican or Democrat. Look at the values. Look at the way that this representative is voting for you, right? It requires work on both sides. And we as Republicans have been very lazy in this point. So yes, it's time to do our work. It's time to do our research, because the only people that are going to change Congress is the American people. And they do that by their vote.
So when you were growing up, what was the community like, and who were your influencers on the political side of things?
So growing up, I grew up on the inner city, Southside of Chicago. I grew up in a Democratic family community, but I grew up on conservative values.
Okay.
Grew up in a church, Christian. My family taught me to work hard, keep what you earn, spend less, right? Traditional family values, love God, love your neighbor, those type of things. So when I got older, I started to challenge myself and be like, why am I in this Democratic circle? Let's do the research, and come to find out that my conservative values match with the Republican Party. So it's a fight I have with my family all the time. But growing up, in my teens and my 20s, things like that, I was oblivious to politics. It really didn't matter to me until I got married, had kids, start looking at my paycheck, start looking at how legislation started to affect me. And then as I got older and started to understand the purpose of service, I grew into service. When I joined the Navy, it wasn't an altruistic reason. I was an individual, and I was looking for what the Navy could do for me. I didn't grow into service for others until I started to become a Navy SEAL.
Okay.
And then that's when things started to resonate with me as far as how do I position myself to be a servant to you, to my brothers right next to me, right to my country. And it just grew and grew and grew over the decades.
So what spurred you to get out? Why did you retire?
25 years, my body was talking to me. Come on. It's a young man's game. It was time.
Okay.
Right. I thought that I was going to do 30 years. And then I came back from Guam, and I started to really, one, it was physically demanding, and two, my boys were getting at an age where they needed, daddy to be available right there. And I'd been gone, for so long. And I think, and this is where it started to become a transition. So I looked, do I do 5 more years to push, or like, what, it's time to move to another purpose.
So as they see you going through this pursuit, right? What are those conversations like with them as they talk to you about your politics? And do you kind of end up rubbing against them wrong, in their youthful exuberance?
I do not. I don't press it upon them.
Okay.
I let them inquire on their own, and I just let them evolve and just watch the process. They have questions. We have a conversation. I do encourage them to, to take note of the news and the way that America's going, the way how other countries are affecting us, and the issues that we have. But that's as far as I go.
Okay.
With that. I'm letting them evolve, because at that time, when I was their age, I remember I had no desire, to be in that circle. So it's just about exposing it to them a little piece at a time, but also protecting them, because the political circle can be pretty harsh, when it comes to things. And I don't want them to experience that part of it just yet.
So getting back to this campaign, what are the issues that, you talked about the absence of leadership from our current and former representative for CD32. What are some of the specific issues that they are saying, hey, I need you to make this mission priority number one?
Priority number one is America's first agenda, and that starts at securing our border. If you look at how the border being open affects the rest of our country, human trafficking, drug trafficking, sex trafficking, cartels coming and going to do as they please. What you don't hear on the news is that we have individuals and groups that are coming over, and they're setting up cells for the future to have some type of conflict on our soil. And we need to secure the border. It's not the president's job. It's Congress' job to do that. So this is the number one issue, and it plays into the safety of the American people in our country. Our women and children are exposed. There is a baseball field that's right on the border. It's southwest of Texas, and they have little girls play softball on that field. It's so close to the border that you can have people on the other side watch. And what you'll have people on the other side watching these little girls play.
Yeah.
What's so disturbing about this is these girls who play softball, these little girls, have practiced whistle drills to run off the field into a ditch if something starts to happen. Somebody jumps on the field, try and snatch them, or some violence pops out. This is very disturbing to me. But we're not having that conversation. It is real, and this is the number one issue that we are talking about. So the other one is the economy. It's our communities having an opportunity. But right now, businesses and entrepreneurs, they don't want to put their business in our Dallas communities because they're unsafe.
Okay.
This is the narrative. I'm not going to that neighborhood because it's unsafe. Our law enforcement severely undermanned, severely under-resourced, severely undertrained. I've toured their training facilities, and it's horrific. It looks like 5-year-olds put it together. They have to raise their own money to buy their weapons.
Wow.
It's not coming from the department. Now, from a federal perspective, I cannot directly get involved. However, I can indirectly get involved and put pressure on the state and the city and the community to figure out how do we get those communities safe? Because what that provides is opportunity for individuals to provide for their families.
Yeah.
Right? It provides for our communities to be safe, and economic growth will present itself. So these are the top two.
So are there any issues that you personally feel passionate about that you are taking on your shoulder as you go along and you talk to people?
Yes, I'm very passionate about protecting the American people and our country. And my resume speaks that our military veterans are lacking. They're lacking the ability to transition over to the civilian sector. I call it building a bridge, right? We're speaking two different languages. You have a military veteran who's getting out 8 years, 20 years, 30 years. They have the soft skills. They know how to communicate. They know how to work across the board. They understand hierarchy. You can fire and forget. You can give it to them, boom, they're gone. You don't have to, right?
Yep.
But we're having a difficult time translating that to the civilian sector, right? The hard skills, the technical part, that's easy to learn. The soft skills are already there. They're the hard things to learn. So you already have a military veteran ready. Just put them in and fire, and you can forget. Two is the health issues that we're having. PTSD, TBI, the VA, needs a complete overhaul. These things are very, very passionate about because I experienced the VA I'm part of it. I experienced it. So I know, I know the struggle that we're having. Also, there are alternative methods, alternative medical lanes that we can go down that's less expensive that we're not targeting. For example, and there's a Florida state senator, him and his wife, out of their own pocket, they provide hyperbaric pressure chamber treatment to veterans with PTSD.
Wow.
They give 40 treatments per veteran.
Okay.
It costs $8,000 for the whole treatment. By the end of the treatment, there's a significant positive change in the veteran, meaning their brain, because they're looking at their brain, and then also too on how they are communicating and working within the community with their families. Why is that not one of the main sources that we can go to? Why is this Florida State Senator and his wife still having to fund it out of their pocket? I just did a study on my own. It was 2 weeks long, and it's here in Dallas, and it's an alternative treatment for veterans for TBI.
Okay.
And there is a very altruistic woman who is paying for it out her pocket for each veteran. And from day 1 to day 10, significant difference between the veterans. How do I know this? Because I went through it. They looked at me, they assessed me. I did all these tests, and they said, hey, this is what's going on with your brains and your eyes, right? Mostly it was training the brains and eyes because it's a muscle. And we get into these certain habits. But not only that, it's identifying like, look, you're not hopeless. Here's what you can do on your own to improve yourself. This is huge for veterans because they're coming back. First of all, we're exposing our military veterans too soon to combat. So they're not mentally, emotionally, spiritually equipped to see those things. For me, it was 3 years before I saw combat. So I think I was pretty prepared by the time I got there.
Okay.
But when they come back and they're having problems, some feel like I can't do anything about this. I'm just broken. And that's not the case. So it's instilling faith back in them that they have some type of control to improve themselves, improve their lives, and find their purpose in the civilian sector, right? And where we see the huge change, with the families, where you have the wife and kids who are saying, he's night and day. She's night and day since she's come back home. Thank you. And here it is, low cost. Most of them are taking off all of these medications. And the Florida state senator, he's been to Congress and he's presented this to them. And you know who fought back? Big Pharma.
Sounds about right.
And they lost.
Yep.
They're going back this year and they're going to put it in a framework of a financial perspective on how much money you can save, right? When the last time before, they were putting it in a health perspective. Mm-hmm. Hey, this is really good for our military veterans. And we didn't seize that, right? We need representatives in Congress that says, hey, this is long-lasting treatment, and it gives our military veterans the ability to be a contribution to society and find their purpose, right? Mm-hmm. We don't have enough representatives there. So this is part of my my message.
Well, and it brings into this creeping problem of Democrats on the national stage talking about Medicare for all, free college education, and all these things. And whenever I bring that up to a veteran, like, it's like we already have this program in place. And the first thing that veterans always tell me, is, yeah, but VA is the perfect example of why we don't want Medicare for all. Because at the end of the day, these plans that are supported largely by the Democrats end up benefiting health insurance companies, big pharma, the for-profit hospitals, and they're not actually addressing any of the issues that their constituents are asking for. No,
they're not. And you have to look at it like this. One, we need to repeal Obamacare.
Yeah. Period.
And we need to make it make it more competitive. We need to make it a free market so that there's lower premium costs. The American people have more options in order to get the health care that they need. We need to put the option back into the American people and not the healthcare insurance companies, right? So I mean, you're absolutely right. Like, this is I'm a part of the VA. I'm on a 6-month waiting list for dental.
Wow.
6 months. Like, I know the pain. I know the pain. And they're processing you through. Meaning if they only give you a certain window, you have a medical appointment, you get there, you got a certain window that the doctor can see you, they check you off, all right, okay, you're good, and then you're out. And you're looking like, what just happened? Like, holy smokes, like that was only like 10, 15 minutes. I really didn't, so it's inefficient. And they're falling very, very short for providing medical services to our military veterans. But let's look at it from a core perspective. When we're dealing with all these issues, healthcare, right? When we're dealing with securing the border, immigration, when we're dealing with the budget, when we're dealing with all these issues, they're forming a circle around one core mission by the Democrats and by our enemies, and that is to destroy the American fabric. That is to destroy what this country was founded on, which is our U.S. Constitution, which is faith in God, right? So now here it is, you have these military veterans who are proven to protect our country, and they come back and they can't get the medical treatment that they need. Mm-hmm. Knowing that if something was to happen in our country, on our soil, who's going to be the first to step up to protect the country?
Veterans.
The military veterans. And if we are mentally unstable or on all these drugs where we can't function, or we don't get the care that we need in order to stay viable for mm-hmm. our community, then it's a greater chance for our enemies to destroy us. So I have a very unique perspective when I'm looking at these things.
Yeah.
Because it boils down to just tearing us apart. You see the divisiveness in this country. The American people have a choice. They control this divisiveness.
Yep.
They're the ones who can go out and vote and says, I don't like what this representative is doing. he doesn't represent me. She doesn't represent me. I'm going to vote for someone who does. But the enemies want you to believe that Congress has the power, or the president has the power, or the judicial court has the power. The people put them in power.
How do Republicans fight this divisiveness, right? What is it going to take in 2020 for Republicans to be able to stop the narrative that either comes from, mainstream media outlets putting the left's agenda, or from, elected officials going out and attacking and demonizing one side or the other? It happens on both sides for sure. But what do you think needs to change within the Republican Party in order for us to see real change and the way this country is not only represented, but the conversations that we're having on a regular basis to end this divisiveness and get back to, like you said, representing the people, delivering results on mission critical priorities?
2 words, and it's very simple: personal responsibility. What am I doing today that is advancing our conservative values to protect our people and our country? So it's not just my responsibility, it's your responsibility. It's our responsibility to understand that we have to commit to the conservative principles and values to protect our country, because right now the other side is pushing their false narrative, and the American people has nothing else to grab onto. We don't have to defend that. Let's push our agenda. We have to work hard. And from what I've seen over the years, the Republican Party is not used to that. They're used to sitting back and waiting for things to come to them. America's changing. The times are changing. We have to work hard. We have to work together, and we have to own it. We're not owning it. And this is what we have to do in order to get over that hump. So it's knocking on doors like we're doing. It's reaching and wanting to have a conversation with each other, and those who aren't necessarily like Republicans, like have conversation with Democrats and have them see that, one, the Democratic Party is not old and white. The Democratic Party is the Republican Party is not old and white.
Yeah.
Right? The Republican Party is very diverse.
Yep.
We're not showing that at all. We need to show our diversity. We need to show that we really care about each other and we care about this country. And we haven't been doing that. So this is the path for the Republican Party to come together, Texas and our whole country. We have to, step up and be an example. And this is one of the main reasons why I want to go to Congress, is I want to be an example. I'm only one person, but if I can get there and I could be an example that I'm representing District 32 like they should be represented, that I could take, I can take hard criticism from the other side, but yet I'm still open for us to work together to pass legislation that's good for us. That speaks volumes, because I'm not talking it, I'm walking it. And other people are going to see that. My other brothers and sisters, representatives, are going to see that. And I'm hoping that they latch on and we move forward together.
Excellent. Well, as we wrap up here, I want to give you one last chance. Personal responsibility for you extends to the borders of District 32 right now. What is your pitch to voters? Here's your chance to speak directly to the folks in CD 32. Why should they support Floyd McLendon for CD 32?
The number one question that our people in District 32 should be asking is, who is strong enough to defeat Colin Allred? I consider myself to be the whole man. I am a Christian. I'm a conservative. I'm a family man with 4 boys. 62% of the district are family households. 40% are 40 and younger. 40% are 50 and older. I'm 46. I'm right in the middle. I resonate with each group. 35% earn $50,000 or less. I've been there. I understand the struggle, right? Not only that, I have a proven record of 25 years of service at a very high level. And I am America's first agenda, unapologetic American. This No other candidate has that across the board. And I believe that I am the candidate that is strong enough to beat Colin Allred. And I just want District 32 to do their research. And when they do, they're going to see, yes, this is the guy, and he is going to represent us. We can believe in Floyd McLendon, right? www.mclendonforcongress.com. Go there, look at my message consistently. My Twitter, my Facebook, it is consistent. I am a servant leader. I want to restore God's presence by my actions, and I'm an unapologetic American.
I appreciate that, Floyd. You hit the nail right on the head on the way out. Go ahead and give your website, social media, all that stuff if people want to learn more about you and your campaign.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me, Jordan. Website, McLendonforcongress.com. That's 1C, McLendon for Congress.com. My Facebook is Floyd McLendon for TX-32. My Twitter is @Floyd McLendon.
I appreciate it, Floyd. We didn't get a chance to talk about it, but I do want to say that I really liked your ad that you put out. So focused on your service and just the reverence that I think comes with our military, especially those who really take home the message that this is not about themselves. This is about our Constitution. It's about our country. It's about the people you're defending. And for you personally, your family, right? It all comes down to family. And I think America has lost sight of whether we're on one side or the other. We all belong to the same country that is trying to build each other up.
Absolutely. We are Americans of different ethnicity. Most importantly, we're Americans, period.
Appreciate it. Thank you so much, Floyd. We'll see you again after the primary's over, and we can try and talk some more about how you're going to defeat Colin in November.
Absolutely. Thank you, sir. Really appreciate it.
All right. Thank you again to Floyd for joining us. If you want to find out more about him, you can find him on Facebook, Floyd McLendon for TX-32. You can go to his website, McLendonforcongress.com, or email him, McLendonforcongress@gmail.com. Thank you again to Floyd and Genevieve for coming on. If you are in the TX-32 race and you'd like to get on the podcast before the March 3rd primary, hit us up on Instagram and Twitter @BigTexasPodcast. Make sure you're following Texas Young Republicans on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram @TexasYRs. And make sure that you are signed up for our email alerts. Go to our website, texasyr.gop. If you are listening to this on iTunes, hit that subscribe button, Spotify, Google Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts, also on YouTube. And make sure you are following this, sharing this with your friends, getting the word out. An educated electorate is the best way we move forward for a brighter future. That sounded good. I should put that on a towel or something. Anyways, thank you again to everyone for listening, taking part, doing your part to help keep Texas red in 2020. Until next time, friends, we'll see you down the road.